Good morning. I call the meeting of the Portsmouth Economic Development Authority to order on this bright, sunny post-Valentine's Day. Good to see everybody. Good morning to everybody, and even to our listening audience, those of you tuned up, those that are in here. Good morning. And at this time, we'll call for the roll.
Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. Mr. Barber.
Here.
Mr. Uri.
Here.
Mr. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Brown. Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Here.
Ms. Smith. And Mr. Smith.
Here.
Chair, we do have 4.
Okay. And the first order of business this morning, as you see on our agenda, is the appointment of a secretary and assistant secretary, considering that the Honorable Mr. Donahue is officially in charge now. So that kind of shuffles some positions. So at this time, I will entertain a motion. My recommendation is again, for, as in the past, the director served as secretary, and it is our intent to follow that procedure and that same way.
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor? Well, you got a roll call, so any questions or? Okay, roll call.
Very quickly, there is also the need to appoint an assistant secretary. So
I was going to do one.
right. You can do assistant secretary.
Yeah, I'm going to do it since I started.
Okay. All right. With that, Mr. Barber.
Aye.
Mr. Uri.
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell. Aye. Commissioner Brown, good morning.
Good morning. So I apologize for being late. I'm going to abstain from this vote. I don't know what the topic is.
Let's stop. Secretary, the director has been the secretary in the past, and now Brian is a new director, so we just appoint him as the secretary to replace Robert.
Okay, understood. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Saunders Smith
Yes.
and Mr. Smith.
Yes.
The motion is adopted.
And secondly, we have to appoint assistant secretary. And I would like to place on the floor Ms. Pamela Kroom as assistant secretary.
Okay. So move.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Barber and a second by Mrs. Saunders Smith. Read the roll. Mr. Barber.
All right.
Ms. Drury.
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell. Aye. Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mrs. Saunders Smith
Yes.
and Mr. Smith.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay. And thank you for accepting the position.
Well, let me say this. Thank you to the board and commissioners for your support and confidence assigning that responsibility to both myself, and I will speak on behalf of Mrs. Kroom as well. We look forward to working with you and continuing to conduct business. So thank you for your support.
Okay. And we will go ahead through the rest of the agenda with Mr. Donahue walking us through it.
Thank you, Chair. So your next item is your minutes from your January 18th regular scheduled meeting. These were sent out in your package last week. If you have any questions or comments, you can happily address those. Otherwise, if you believe you're needed a motion to adopt.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Read the roll. Mr. Barber.
Aye.
Ms. Drury.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell. Yes. Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith
Yes.
and Chairman Smith.
Yes.
The minutes are adopted. Our next item is the financial report for the month of January. Ms. Flora Felicia is here to present that item for you. We're going to pull up the financials here for just one.
I'll be going through a higher review of these financials. So what we have here is a statement of net position, practically the same as the balance sheet report. It's a comparative report, and based what we see is that the cash compared to last year, fiscal year 2021, which is June 30, 2021, is higher, close to 900,000. Accounts receivable are way low, and we broke it down. So the total net position is 21 million, and 40 million of these are fund balance, 12,000, from 40 million, 12,000 are unrestricted, the other one are restricted. What needs to be mentioned is that so next coming fiscal year, 5 million, if you go in the middle of the page, you see there is a loan that's due in 2020, that's 2023, but that's when we got it. So it's 1.7 million loan, and the revenue note that's probably coming due next fiscal year. Next report, please. Here is an income statement, which is just this year position. Based on this, you see that if you go down the page, overall this year there is an increase of 80,000 of their net position. And next report, please. This is all assets that the authority has. Close to, we should summarize close to 18 million all the way down. Yeah, 18 million. That's the cushion of the authority. And next report, this is practically explaining the sale that happened during this year, which is these properties on the side are have been sold profitable for 252. So next report. This is a report that explains what happened this year. It's year-to-date budget, and the bottom line of this is 80,000 profitable during this year. Let me know if you have any question. And the next page should show just grants that are still outstanding. It's a 52,000, yeah, 52,000 still to be paid.
The only question I have are we getting payments from the Sheraton at this point hotel?
Yes.
Is that coming in on a
Yes,
regular basis now?
regular basis. They're good. The only thing they always not normal $400, so we're collecting those.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions relating to the financials? Okay, well, we will proceed with sending those forward to audit. Your next item is old business. We do have a matter that needs to be addressed this morning, which is related to the local incentive program. Councilman Battle, good morning, sir. Appreciate you joining us. I wanted to recognize that you're here today. We do have a local incentive program item, which is 3315 High Street. The business is Helping Hands for Heroes. If you recall, they were the recipient of a both an interior build-out grant and a facade improvement grant in 2020. They had some challenges with the project during COVID and relating to some other issues, and we are in need of an extension for the deadline for completion of that work. They have received, it's my understanding, a temporary certificate of occupancy for the project from the city. But in order to allow for them to finalize that and then do the closeout to receive the grant funding, we do believe there is a need for an additional 90 days for them to complete the grant closeout. So we are recommending to the board that be approved this week. I'm happy to answer any questions.
That's the Veterans Center, right?
It is, yes,
And
on High Street.
We gave them one extension before for it.
We've given, I think, at this point, 3 prior extensions. So this would be the 4th and final to allow them to close out the grant and receive the funding.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Barber and second by Mr. Brown. Thank you, sir. I'll read the roll. Mr. Barber.
Aye.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Yes.
And Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Brian, are they operational at this point in there, or any type of, or is it limited operation?
It's limited operations because of the fact that the CO has not been finalized. I do believe there's some other business activities they're able to conduct outside of that location with respect to some transportation services that the business provides, but nothing operating inside because of the CO issue. So they're very close to rectifying. Motion was adopted.
Yes.
Any other questions on that item before we proceed? Okay, we're going to move on to new business. The first item is your first real property investment grant application for the fiscal year. Again, this is the new program that the EDA stood up effective January 1. We have been receiving applications. We have been processing those, and this is an application that exceeds the administrative threshold, so it's over $10,000 is where they have exceeded that administrative cap. So we're bringing it before you for consideration this morning. Ms. Jenny Osborne is going to make the presentation for you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So this application is for the, this is Portsmouth Development Foundation. I apologize. It's the Partnership Development Foundation, my mistake, which is a nonprofit organization doing business as Bloom Co-working. They're temporarily located at 719 High Street, and they are seeking a $25,000 grant to assist in the build out of their permanent location at 739 High. 739 is the former Montgomery Ward shopping location at the corner of High and Effingham Street and has been vacant for over 20 years. It is completely devoid of any interior build out. There's no electricity, no HVAC, nothing inside but concrete. So they are seeking the funds to complete flooring of an 8,000 square foot space in an overall project estimated at approximately $1 million. And here are some pictures of the interior.
How much of the space will it be occupying?
8,000 square feet, which is about half of the overall space. If they're successful initially and the space does not take on another occupant, they would like to possibly expand into the rear of that facility, which is almost double the overall square footage of this particular project. And this is the interior rendering of the finalized project. So they will have a couple of conference spaces. They'll have closed door offices. They'll have communal space, meeting rooms. They can be rented daily, weekly, monthly, that type of thing. So they're seeking to be the home of the majority of Portsmouth aspiring entrepreneurs. We do a lot of programming in that space as well, and we partner with other organizations like Black Brand and some organizations in Norfolk as well.
Isn't there a coffee shop going in there, or is that still
In
going in there?
between their temporary space and this permanent space, Cure Coffee House and post-secondary brewing is opening a location there as well.
And just to also catch up, this is the first floor of the Montgomery apartments. They on the second floor. Yeah, they got apartments, and it's also this group is the Portsmouth Partnership that used to occupy this floor, right? This is the same.
Yes, this is a nonprofit organization that is underneath that partnership umbrella.
Right.
I think it's great. I mean, it's certainly a business that we have definitely needed and talked about in the past, so I think it's,
They got a
It's
nice
wonderful.
facility in Norfolk too.
yeah, and yeah, that is kind of the goal of what people are doing in general all around. So I think it's great that we have one right downtown.
Is that location considered a HUD zone?
I don't know that it's a HUD zone, but it is in the city's, one of two of the city's enterprise zones.
Mhm.
Do you know about that?
I do believe it is located within a hub zone.
Yeah, because it makes it more beneficial for the small businesses
For the
to move
business
in.
operating there.
Right.
You know, the important thing is, this is an expansion, and the demand for these co-working offices has continued to increase. So this is really this will be their third expansion as they've grown, and they continue to max out their space where they're currently operating. They have over 30 tenants, so they've outgrown their space now twice. So this will be a third expansion, and the size of which is considerably larger than what they've been operating. So it really shows the demand for entrepreneurial endeavors and startups that is taking place in Portsmouth right now. This is both kind of a pre-COVID and certainly post-COVID situation. We continue to see that demand increasing. There's another group operating in Portsmouth by the name of EQ Hub, and they have also recently expanded. So we see this as a growing sector of the office market, and we think there's additional growth that will happen throughout the city going forward. So,
Will they have broadband access? Will they be connected or have the ability to connect to our broadband initiative?
Well, I do believe they have access to broadband currently, but if you're referring to the fiber ring that is being installed, that is very close in proximity to this property. So that would be something that the broadband authority would have to work through how that would be available to the private sector. It is across the street from a new data center that is planned in the city on High Street, which is being developed by Siemens technology company. So there's a lot of activity that's occurring in this area in addition to our new innovation district. So this is really all in keeping with the vision for how that end of High Street is developed and expanded.
I I just think this is a perfect example of some of the things we've been talking about, looking at what additional opportunities are around that area that we can purchase to facilitate that growth even more. So it may be a future discussion for us to see what's available. But this certainly seems to be moving ahead very nicely.
How about parking? Is that an issue around that area, or how are they gonna deal with it?
There is a parking lot immediately behind the building. There's also on-street parking. It has not been an issue to date.
Councilman.
Do they participate fully in the space?
Ask me again, I'm sorry, do they participate fully in?
In the tax base for the city of Portsmouth?
As a tenant of that building, they do pay taxes. They pay it, they have a lease that is a triple net, so they pay their portion, their prorated portion of taxes on
Or
their.
they have a prorated portion?
And each of the businesses located within the co-working space must be licensed to do business in the city of Portsmouth, and would be paying their fees and taxes as well.
It's owned by a private entity, so the entity is for real estate taxes.
Correct. They are a tenant of a private entity, so there is real estate tax that is due on the property, the building itself, the real estate improvements. And their lease requires the tenant to pay their share of that.
Who do they lease from?
The property owner is the breeding company.
I move approval.
I second.
Motion by Mr. Barber and a second by Ms. Drury. I will read the roll. Unless there's any discussion. Mr. Barber,
Yes.
Ms. Drury,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith,
Yes.
and Chairman Smith.
Yes.
The item is approved, 6-0. Okay, we do have another new business item for you this morning, which is a presentation and update on activity here at the Portsmouth at Work Development Center. And Ms. Kroon will be providing you an update on all the exciting things they're doing here. They've had a number of accomplishments which have occurred really over the last year, because February is when we launched Portsmouth at Work virtually with a physical location that we're in today, launching in May. So we've had a lot of activity. We want to provide an update on the year-to-date progress. So Ms. Kroon,
All right.
turn it over to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So good to see you all this morning and give you an update on what's been happening here in the Portsmouth at Work Center. As Mr. Donahue said, we gave an overview of what would be happening in the center, and so just want to update you on where we are. So we've done a lot of community outreach, working with civic associations, church and communities, the Sierra Club, and their workforce initiative, especially when it comes to offshore wind. Wesley Community Service Center, understanding that there are a lot of residents that actually participate in their programs. Portsmouth Volunteers for the Homeless, not just with that entity, but with the new initiative in the Department of Social Services. Working on a new program with the Friends of Portsmouth Juvenile Courts. Just recently talked with business leaders in LEFCO with a partnership, and we've been before Old Town a few times with that. Some of our partnerships that are thriving are with the Redevelopment and Housing Authority here in Portsmouth, Social Services, and Portsmouth Public Schools, as well as the adult ed side of that program. We've had several employment opportunities to provide access to employers for our residents. We've got 2 partnerships, Amazon and Tidewater Staffing. There are a few employers that are coming online to hold monthly Meet the Employer events here. Amazon, we held one at Churchland Branch Library and one here. Both were well attended in preparation for the new facility that's opening, but also those opportunities that are available right now within the region. A lot of individuals do not understand or know that Amazon actually has 30 locations between here and Richmond that are always hiring. We've hosted 2 hiring events. One was at the Renaissance and the other at the Sportsplex. And we are active, highly active on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, where we are actually reaching a lot of our participants that way. Once we put a program or a job out there, it gets shared vastly, as well as the city's marketing team assists with getting everything out that we do here. So our outreach has been, well, there's some improvements we can make, but we're moving right along. Just giving you some data this morning, our participants are mostly female. 81% of them are females. We do have males that are coming in. They're slow. There's a trust factor there, but we're gaining there. As you can see, the age groups, mostly we're seeing are young adults. 46% of those are between the ages of 16 and 30, which is great. Means they're seeking opportunities that they didn't know were available. Our middle-aged residents are our next highest category at 38%, and those are individuals between the ages of 31 and 45. And then our older adults, 46 to 70, we've seen about 14 of those. And those individuals are looking, they've had a career, they're looking for a career change, or they're looking to go back to work because they thought they were going to be able to retire, but hadn't been the case, so they are seeking employment. So this is a list of all of the programs that we currently offer. We've had 391 registrants, means that we've touched them in some form or fashion when it comes to a program. not just, they just registered. We've actually provided some type of service to 391 Portsmouth specific residents. 201 of them have completed a program in one form or another. So these are actually unduplicated numbers for the programs. If I was to duplicate it, of course, it would be higher. But these are unduplicated numbers. Given healthcare just came out in January, late January, and of course, it's been our largest success program provided. We actually overwhelmed the provider. Everybody's on the wait list now because we have so many participants participating for various programs. That's your certified nursing assistants, medication aides, medical assistants, which is great because anyone taking the medical assistance program has now satisfied almost half of their program classes to actually go to school for their RN. So, and then our CDL program, we've had 3 completers, and that's because the program they actually didn't start class until January. They've been registering since late October. It's also one of those where everyone did not qualify. And the vast majority of the ones that did not qualify for the program, it did have to do with their driving record. Some of them have a few months, some of them have a few years. And that's an insurance requirement for an employer when it comes to how many points you may have on your license or what may be on your license. But what we've done is found other providers or other services where they can actually go and remedy those issues. And if they want to come back for the CDL training, they're of course able to do that. The call center agent also has a high interest for the program, and the low completion is due to we can bring them in, we can start them, but it's up to them to complete the program. And then our entrepreneurship program is equated to, of course, your new program, and we're happy with that. There are 49 that are in the pipeline. 28 have completed up to about halfway through the program. They are now in their business planning, the business writing of the planning process. And so we will get them through. And then I work from home, which is very successful. And the vast majority of those individuals, I say only maybe 5 of them, aren't currently employed. So that was the great thing with that particular program. And the Digital Learn, North Star, and Skills to Succeed, those are skill building programs for our residents in order to prepare them to work in a field where digital literacy is important. So that's helping them improve those literacy skills.
Can I ask a question on that? So what's the timeline typically to complete? And I assume it's different for each one, but is there a general timeline?
Generally, the average for any of these programs is 3 weeks.
Okay. Wow.
I have a question. Who's the CDL cohort? Who's offering the CDL training?
So we have 2 providers for the CDL training, ATI and 160 Driving Academy is our new provider, our newest provider for the program.
The 201 people who have completed the program, are you able to track how many have found positions in the area that they trained for? Is that part of your numbers?
Yes, and so we do actually track them for a year after completing the program. We had to chase them a little bit to get information, but the 201 completers, about 85% of them are actually employed.
Do you have any indication about their wages as a result of their employment?
All of these individuals are in jobs where their wages are $15 or more. The lowest, when we place them, that is our lowest. Social services, we were mirroring social services at one point. $10 is just very low. There's not going to be self-sufficiency. So the employers that we work with the exception of PCA, are all $15 or more. So where our funding sources are, EDA was gracious enough to give us funding at $80,000 specifically. It was $125,000 total, 85,000, I'm sorry, specifically for the program. We have utilized about $45,000 of that money with a balance of 40. And I'm going to explain some of this in a minute. Our CDBG, the properties that you sold in the CDBG program provided us a funding opportunity for the program specifically that touches the residents. We received $93,000 for that. 31,000 of that was specifically for certifications. We didn't know this was going to be as successful as it was going to be because we were in part of a year, right? And so we were still in COVID, but we have expanded all of those funds. Economic Development has also funded the program specifically towards residents at 20,000. And right now, the no source is I have a wait list, even with the 40,000 that I'm reserving, because I would have to be very specific and particular in who we award those funds to. So I am actually also seeking other funding sources, resources, working with our partners heavily, such as the Hampton Roads Workforce Council, who has other federal dollars to assist individuals, but we've got to get them through a process before they can get to that funding. And we are seeking some grant opportunities. Part of applying for grants as a locality is that we need to be a nonprofit. Most grants go to nonprofit organizations. We're not a nonprofit organization, but we are seeking funding to complete the program, this program year. So one of the things we told you when we brought this program to you was what was going to be our metrics. How do we know that we're making a difference with an emphasis on workforce development, not just specifically on the training, but workforce as a whole? And so we pulled the data. These are not COVID numbers. So 2020 data is actually 2019. 2021 is coming out of COVID. So our median households, what we want to see with each one of these criteria is that there's an increase, that we're seeing some progress in forward movement. And as you can see, we are seeing progress in forward movement. I will say the Alice households, which are those households that are above the federal poverty level, but below the basic cost of living threshold, which means they do not qualify for services from social services. So there are households on the bubble. Portsmouth has had about a % decrease, just like everyone else in the region when it comes to population. So some of that is equated to that loss. I don't want to take full credit for that. But as you can see, we do have forward movement. Our per capita income, our median household income is increasing, our per capita income is increasing, and our persons in poverty is decreasing. And that's exactly what we want to see. And so that's actually.
Can I ask you a question? What's the source of this these numbers?
The census and United Way also tracks with the census the Alice households. It's on our BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics as well.
And this is probably more a broad question. It's interesting, the first slide you showed between the female and the men and the ages, that it was the young men that is the least in it. And that's obviously one of our biggest issues in the city of Portsmouth is our young men. I mean, right now with crime. So how are we, and this, as I said, this may be a bigger question than right here, but how are we addressing to get the younger men into the program more to get them quality jobs?
So our outreach with the community is how we've got some new programming. So like one, when we talk about the Friends of Juvenile Court, that particular program is working with our young people who are court involved. And as we know, a lot of times not immediately sentenced. The judge gives them an opportunity to get their life together. So one of the programs we're working on is that they come through this program as a condition of that set aside. And then we are working with the public schools. Actually, we'll be kicking off a program this summer, which is called a Summer Bridge Program, which is targeted to our young people, juniors and seniors, basically introducing them to the trades, not just maritime, but construction trades. It gives them a very entry level look into that career field to actually move them into the Skills Trade Center. And we do have employers that are already attached to that program. They're just waiting for us to kick that off. And so those are two ways that we are tackling our youth in workforce.
Yes, sir.
We would like any organization that's in a positive realm to be available in our city. But the most effective method of reaching our youth is to have an umbrella that comes under the city. That way, it's all inclusive. Everybody gets to meet everybody. All of the services are coordinated in the most effective manner. Although this is good, social services and so forth, and this nonprofit and this forth, they're good, but they have to be coordinated under one central to be most effective.
Absolutely, Mr. Allen. That's part of my job, is to help wrangle in all of that too. Here, that is part of our, if you all may or may not, there's a lot of information that you all hear. Recall when we created this initiative that we talked about, our neighborhood peer program. So we are in the process of building that, where we're working with the community and community partners that want to be involved. Mr. Brown, on a test, I've already started tackling him sometimes and asking him who to talk to, because I am new to Portsmouth. I've got to learn. Mr. Smith and I've had several conversations, and he's connected me to various individuals. So unless the community knows what's happening, they can't take advantage of the opportunity. And that's part of, it's not all on the city. Programs is about them understanding and knowing where all of the pieces of the puzzle are. And so we're working on that, bringing everybody together and our partners together, working more in the community. We do have entities that are responsible to this city, such as the Workforce Council, who has offices here, but getting people over to their offices to actually participate in the program has been a hindrance. And so we're here to try to help bridge that gap. If people are comfortable coming here, we can register them right here. We try to get them to where they need to be. We're not proclaiming to be everything to everybody, but we're here to help support the individual to get them to where they need. So we are that community connector that Mr. Battle is talking about, to make sure that everybody knows how to get to self-sufficiency in the quickest and best way possible.
But as city representatives, we have to be all things to everybody. That makes it much more effective.
Ms. Saunders.
Yeah, has this program partnered with the Sheriff's Department to possibly look at some of the people that are coming out of the jails, especially those with, low-level offenses that could benefit from this program and get a skill set?
All of our departments have come through here, have sent someone through here to try to understand what does the program offer, what do we provide. We work with the Workforce Council when it comes to our returning citizen population, as well as the Urban League, because they have more resources and services than we do. We can get you to a quick certification and we can connect you to a partner, but a lot of those resources that they need, we don't have here. This really is more so of, if you recall, you bring the project in, economic development is responsible for the economic development of the city. We bring an employer in, we need to make sure those jobs are filled to the best of our ability by a Portsmouth resident. That's more so our role. And that if there are other services and resources that an individual needs, that we find those resources and services to help connect them and help the employer also know where their pipelines are with those particular partners.
You know, we sort of helped you get this facility established, and I was just curious as to, given COVID and everything, what has been the utilization of the facilities here?
So it's been a hit and miss. It just depends on which program is running. So everybody tell you they probably couldn't walk the halls when the healthcare announcement went out. It was from the time we opened to the time we closed, past the time we closed. We actually stayed open some evening hours to make sure everyone had the opportunity. As far as the training, it just depends on which program a person is actually coming here to participate in, dictates how many people are here at a time. But it is being utilized. It's like Christmas time, of course, there really wasn't a lot of activity other than we had participants coming in to register for CDL because it was beginning in January. But it has been utilized. We've been pretty happy with it. To the point we had to hire somebody to make sure that we could service the individuals.
I have a question. So in the previous page, you mentioned that you already got some funds from EDA, but not all of them are spent. Why you are asking more and those are not spent yet?
I could spend that reserve in an hour. We've got 5 additional months. I have a waiting list. So that's why we're asking. I have enough individuals on the waiting list for more money than I have. Does it become a first come, first serve to give out that money? Is it going to be based off of how well we think the individual is able to complete a program? You end up being choosy when you have limited funds.
Usually you come and ask for money once you reach 80% of capacity, but I see half of them are not spent. So it's like, it's okay, I just had a question.
Well, more than half of our funding is spent, because if you look at the fact that we have actually utilized economic development's budget to cover some of the cost as well. So we have actually spent 80% of the money.
If you go to the previous page, the one that, yeah, that's what I see. I see this 80,000, more than 80,000.
So
you see, it looks like more than 40%. It's fine. I just want to make the glance, you know, your view, you know, why these funds are not spent. You're still asking for money.
So
do you see there the blue one, the
there's
black
40,
one?
yeah, there's half of EDA left.
Okay.
Yes, but we've already expended off of the money in CDBG. And if economic development was to ask for the refund, we're down to $20,000 from EDA.
I mean, it's your decision, but just bringing to your attention.
It's a good question, and keep in mind this is the inaugural year of this workforce development center existing and these programs being offered. So one of the challenges has been how do we predict and understand the demand for these programs and services that we are now offering. And through the last 12 months, we've begun to realize that, certainly in the last 6 months where we've been back in person and having more people actually coming in and new programs coming online, that demand has increased substantially with the healthcare program, commercial driver's license programs. So we're still learning as we work through this what the financial needs will be. We have prepared an application for CDBG funding for the upcoming fiscal year, so that has taken into account some of the things that we've seen and experienced over the last year. So the hope is that that funding is there so that the financial ask of the EDA is less. But certainly we're looking at other opportunities as well.
I was going to ask that. Was there any discussion, and City Manager Jones is gone, but like with the PPC, the funds coming from the federal government, was there any potential for the money to go into this? I mean, this is exactly what we're trying to do, is train, and it's money going back to our, residents. Has that ever come up in the discussion on how we're going to spend those funds?
Well, the community development block grant funding is federal funding that comes to the city. It's entitlement funding, and that has been utilized. We're using that now to this Chris point, I think we expended the CDBG funding. We'll be requesting that. We're looking at with some of our partners, such as the Hampton Roads Workforce Council. They've received federal funding, and there's opportunities there to partner, so we can utilize their resources from the federal.
Okay. I guess one of the questions that I have, and maybe the councilman can help me on this. I understand that we have a lot of programs that are out there, but have we taken the time to benchmark or scorecard those programs? So, for example, I have 20 programs. What's the success rate that makes that program successful? So for our case, you would say 85% of people who go through the program get a job, so that we can kind of say, here are the programs that are yielding the best results for the city. And those are the ones that we ought to be allocating funds to. And I understand there's a lot out there, but has anybody taken the time to assess all of the community service programs that are out there? And I'm not saying that's your responsibility. I'm just saying, has the city taken the time?
It is my responsibility. Although it hasn't been channeled into the system yet. There's a few that we evaluate, but as human beings, the most important thing to us sometimes, and we lose a lot when we think this way, is self-autonomy. That means that this nonprofit is looking for the independence to make the decisions as they choose. But some kind of way, we have to pull it all together. Maybe let the folk that give out the funding for the grants, the stipulation that you must work within the umbrella of the city, because you'll get a person that gets the nonprofit status, and they might not be managerial material. And consequently, when this happens, a group here, a bunch here, everybody running their own way. I'm gonna do it, I'm the best, I'm, all the foolishness, rather than let's get together and let's work together, and how can we improve and to continue learning. A perfect example, I learned something from her today. You ask for more money when you've expended 80% of what you have. You see what I'm saying? It's all about getting together, learning, exchanging ideas, and dropping the autonomy, and work for one central goal. Again, there are some that we evaluate, and they're the immediate ones under the city's structure, but a lot of the evaluation and the autonomy is just left to, oh, they'll do their thing. I know that sort of thing. But we have to get strong-willed person who can just bring it all together and get folk to leave the egos at the door and that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have limited resources, and we want to apply those resources to the things that are going to yield the best results. And part of that is demanding that people who get money from the city have a certain criteria that they have to meet to be in consideration. I think
they meet the criteria before they get the money. That's part of the application process to even receive the funds. You have to meet the certain criteria.
Well, you have to meet the criteria, then you have to be evaluated on a regular basis. So quarterly or monthly, you submit where you are against that criteria.
And at our level, we rarely have an individual agency that we micromanage, such as the EDA. We don't micromanage the EDA. There's a lot of nonprofit agencies such as PRHA. We don't micromanage PRHA. The autonomy basically lies within those agencies, although we should pay closer attention to all the agencies. But these are some of the problems that the loose impediments that be in front of a city that keep them from success.
So let's have a baseline understanding of the nonprofits that are out in the community that typically do workforce development. They're doing soft skills training. They're not doing specific job training. They are instilling in you, much like our digital literacy programs. They are helping you to gain some skills that get you to the next step, that get you to the next level. They're going to always have to hand you off to someone else to do the hard skill training. So that's what we're working on here. That's what this program is basically doing. We're working on not just your soft entry-level skills, we're giving you hard skills to be able to obtain a job and or be able to hand you off to the workforce council, who has a larger pot of money and can pay for you to actually go to those higher cost schools and get those higher level certifications. Our certifications are really get you in the door. They give you a look. They give you some employers look at it as, okay, well, you haven't worked in a year, but you took the time to go take this program, to complete this program. So I'm going to give you an opportunity because I think you can do this job. Some of the testing that we do to evaluate where the person is helps an employer say whether or not that person is trainable for the job in which they're applying. But understand that most organizations are just giving you soft skills because one, they don't have anyone that can actually certify you in the hard skills. So that's always understand that as your baseline when it comes to workthorse development.
I guess where I would challenge you on is to say that I thought part of our initiative was look at such things as offshore and what are the types of jobs that would be coming down the pipeline for offshore and how can we facilitate that by getting people trained and ready for those kinds of positions. Breeden's getting ready to do some construction if they ever decide to do that. What are the type of trades that are necessary for construction work? Are we short? What do we need to build to make ourselves competitive?
So two things to that is the fact that we are preparing individuals for offshore wind, but they've got to finish defining what that's going to look like and what those jobs are going to be, and they have not totally defined that, one. But two, most anyone in the maritime industry, which is why the maritime industry is concerned, is going to be able to work in offshore wind. They're the exact same jobs. The only difference is out on the farm, out on the wind tunnel farm, where you've got to have an elevator certification and you've got to have the height certification. Working out there on the actual farm, but anything here on land is maritime. There's no difference in those job roles and those job skills that are going to be needed.
Yeah, we need to kind of wrap this up. And I just want to say a final thing. This program looks at all of that, the things that he's describing. That's something that you're searching and pecking and looking for as to how when those opportunities come, which they are kind of futuristic, some of them right now, you will be looking at that and you will be. And the other piece of this is the questions about the funding. Well, any organization, any corporation should be constantly looking at the future and making plans for and to expansion of plans. So in order to do that, you need to be looking ahead to determine where the existing funding is, whether that's going to still be there, or can you find new funding. So I think it's imperative that you at any point be looking at future funding and consistent funding. We want this to go on and on. We don't want it to be a 1 or 2 year thing and then it peters out. So I think you are right about asking for future funding because you know, when you're at whatever level you're at now, because that's what corporations and organizations do to sustain themselves over long term. I know when I was in management, we at Dominion, we had to put together 5-year plans, 10-year plans, and all of that was incorporated in where money's coming from, personnel, people training, and all of that. So you need to be, and because I don't see, I guess, I see EDA funding, I see CBGB, but you know, what part did the city, how can they actually, and as Ms. Drury said, the city manager's gone now, but one of my questions would be, you know, I know ARPA funding is, you know, not, it's just temporary, it's just when it runs out, it runs out. I'm pretty sure there's opportunities to apply for that even, as Mr. Brown was saying, to apply for that at some level, because it's open for that now with the money that council has set aside to go out in the community. But long term, it's got to be, you know, reoccurring kinds of needs that we have.
And let me make one clarification to this funding. The funding is only what is been spent on the participants. There are other costs to running this program.
Yeah.
And the services that have had to be purchased and just standing this facility up. So there's more money than this that has been spent. And that the city has actually provided that funding. That $20,000 that has been spent out of economic development's budget is city funded. Where it hasn't been allocated to CDBG or to the EDA, but that's city money that we just haven't been reimbursed. So, and then there are other costs as well. But we are seeking other funding sources. We did request a larger budget from CDBG for next year. We do have, as you stated, budgets and planning for the long term. And so we'll just continue. This is just a snapshot of right now of where the center is. That's all this.
And how it affects EDA primarily. That's what you were showing us here.
Yes, where we're at today with what, and it's exceeded what we thought it was going to do, and we still have 5 months in the year. Is what we were trying to communicate.
Right.
I'm gonna have to leave, but before I go, a key statement that she made was when we hand them off, when they have completed the service that they're providing, that's where we lack as a city. Ideally, our services are not as effective as they should be in all areas of our city to have 85% of our youth that can't read when they go to school. This is one of the biggest problems that we have to, if we don't meet this criteria of improving their level of reading within the first 3 years, we lose them. And we're handing the kids off. We have to make them strong physically, mentally, socially, emotionally, and spiritually. If we do not do that, we're going to suffer with the problems that we have. I have another meeting. Thank you all.
And thank you for coming.
If there's anything that I can help anybody with, feel free to call.
Yes.
I just would like to thank Ms. Crone and Brian for a very fine presentation. It's I learned a lot, and I hope that we all did.
Right. And just to ditto, yes, that's why we need to wrap it up, because you have basically shown us as EDA where our funds, there's other funds, like you said, that's being utilized, but I think the main point of your presentation was to show how our funds are being utilized. And that's the point of it. But thank you very much for, you know, the presentation and what you continue to do to make this successful. I think it's very very successful. And, and the word's getting out. And one of the things too that you would, and I'll get with you later about that, the quarterly now, the Civic League presidents are meeting. And so far, we have almost 20 presidents that are participating, across the city. And that's another avenue for you to get the word out, and they just recently had a meeting. They're playing, and the city is participating in that also from time to time and making presentations and kind of introducing the group to the city services. The initial meeting that we had, the city manager had all of the departments present, and they made a comprehensive presentation as to who they are and what they do. So that's something to keep in mind. I'll give you some more information on that. Thank you.
We do intend to continue providing these updates going forward. So I think it's imperative for the EDA to have an understanding of where we are with the programs, the activities and progress we've been making, and then really to show what the return on your investment is, because you all have committed substantial financial resources to the program, and we want to show you that we're producing results. So we will continue doing this, and we'll look at coming back perhaps quarterly, just to give you again another snapshot of an update. But Chairman, we do have another new business item. If we're able to move forward with that, I'd like to do so with the presentation on our business retention survey. Business retention and expansion is really kind of one of the three pillars of economic development, what we do here. The other two being business attraction and recruitment, and then obviously, workforce development and talent development. But business retention and expansion, that's really kind of the essence of who we are as far as a community and our small business community. I'm going to hand it over to Jacqueline Kraft to provide you with some updates and results of the business retention and expansion survey that we did back in December. So Jackie.
So now we're at the fun part of the meeting where we talk about and data percentages, more data.
Oh, Pamela's part was fun.
So to get the word out about the survey, we were able to utilize our social media channels as well as partner with the city. These are some of the graphics that we use to reach out to the business community. The purpose of the survey was to get feedback from actual business owners on what their needs were and properly assess what it is that they needed so that we could develop a BRE or business retention and expansion strategy to address their needs. So we had a total of 86 respondents. It's not as large as we would hope, but it was definitely a good sample size. We ran the survey from December 10th to December 31st, about 3 weeks at the end of 2021. So this is the composition of some of the respondents, and these are not mutually exclusive, but we had about 34 minorities, about half were women. We had some SWAM businesses, about 16 home-based, and 43 of the business owners that responded are actually residents of Portsmouth. So I'm not going to cover all of the questions. There were a lot. There were about 37 questions. So I'm just going to kind of go over the main ones that are, I guess, most important. So how do you foresee your business performance over the next 2 years? Very happy with this result. 67% felt like they were going to see growth in the upcoming 2 years. So that is definitely good to hear. Has the number of employees changed in the last 24 months? If so, how? Of course, with COVID, we expected that there would be somewhat of a decrease, but what's optimistic is that 41% experienced no change and 23%, even with COVID, showed an increase in employees. In the next 24 months, do you expect the number of employees to change? So how? So over the next 24 months, they expect to hire more staff. We all know that there are staff shortages. People are looking for employees, so I'm not surprised by that.
Ma'am, do you have a breakdown of the size of the employers that you've responded?
Breakdown of the size. I would have to go back and look at what exactly we collected on the demographic scale. I know we asked for the total amount of employees, but we
Yes.
didn't ask for like gross receipts or.
No, I was just thinking employee size in terms of.
Have a wide sample with 86 people. You could have businesses with one employee all the way up to, so you have a lot of samples in that.
That's true. That's true. Right, but and that's the information that we wanted. We wanted to we wanted to get information from various business sizes because they all have different needs, so that we could tailor a program that would best suit all of them.
Would it be true to say the majority of them are small businesses?
I would say majority are probably small. As you saw, I think about 31 were SWAM certified. You have to be a small business for that. I think majority of businesses in Portsmouth generally are considered small business. How satisfied are you with Portsmouth as a business location? So as you can see, I tried to highlight in this area, those that were dissatisfied are dissatisfied with permitting and Portsmouth branding and imaging. But you can see in the satisfied area that there are some things that they are happy with in regards to Portsmouth. The cost of doing business, access to customers, the ports, quality of life, proximity to metro areas, transportation, as well as safety services. So that we also feel is optimistic. What is your overall opinion of Portsmouth as a place to do business? Majority said that it needs improvement. And I think you will find in the following slides that we can kind of determine why this is the answer that we What challenges do you encounter?
That just seems out of sync, because that many people say needs improvement in the previous side.
Because they were all projections,
They're
so.
all satisfied.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Disconnect.
Yes, it says how satisfied with you are with Portsmouth as a place to do business.
But the branding is low, and if you go to the slide you're gonna be on, that correlates.
Right, and as you can see, like the neutral area is where we have our highest percentages. So they didn't indicate that they were satisfied or dissatisfied, which is probably the correlation to the needs improvement. That's also a neutral area. That makes sense. What challenges do you encounter, if any, due to your Portsmouth location? So majority indicated crime and homelessness as a challenge. But what we didn't get from this question is whether it was actual crime that has happened to them or to their business, or if it's the city's perception of crime. Because you can see city's perception scored high as well. What obstacles are currently affecting your business? Recruiting and retaining employees is one of the higher ones, as well as crime. And again, it could be actual crime or the perception of crime.
How was that option presented to them? The crime option, it's checking the box. Is it like crime that happened to, I'm a victim of a crime, or it's too much crime surrounding me? It was just presented as crime and,
Yes,
yeah.
that's how it was presented. Now, when we do the survey again, we'll probably be a little bit more specific so that we can actually pull that data, but it was presented just how you see it.
Right.
Can't see the top, but Portsmouth Economic Development offers service, resources, and opportunities. We ask business owners what areas of assistance would be most beneficial to your business. Most indicated that they would like that tax credits and incentives would be most beneficial, as well as security improvement funding, business operation funding, and marketing assistance, which is good for us because we currently have three grants that are able to address at least 3 of those, and of course we can provide information on tax credits. As a part of Portsmouth economic development strategy, staff seeks to promote and support Portsmouth image through a cohesive communication strategy. So we wanted to get their awareness of some of the things that are going on in Portsmouth, see if they were aware. And you can see just in this column alone, the what is that means that they have no clue about what that actually is. Our Let's Talk Business events, any announcements that we make about job creation, workforce development, even business visitation, that we offer that. So I think that kind of relates to the where they've indicated that it needs improvement, because we have to do a better job with communicating our accomplishments and what it is that we have to offer. Please check the topics that would be of interest to you or benefit to your employees. Again, we go back to tax credit and incentive programs, as well as social media marketing for our highest subject matter. Please indicate the method of communication that's most effective. A overwhelming majority indicated that they would like to receive information more by email. And I know that we have done some email campaigns in the past, but we probably need to beef up our efforts a little bit. And a large percentage are also on Facebook. We've had a presence on Facebook, but probably not as active as it should be. So this is definitely something that we're looking at, because we want to make sure that we make the proper adjustments so that owners and residents alike are receiving information. What tools, resources, or actions do you think local government can provide in order to help produce a positive effect on your business or prevent downsizing, relocation, or closure? A large percentage indicated grants. That's not a surprise. But they also want to see more public outreach, more marketing and advertising, and networking opportunities. Again, the central thing that we've seen throughout this survey is that they want the information. So we just have to make sure that we are doing what we have to do to provide the information to you. How do you rate the city's economic development efforts? This is a little different from the previous question where it ranks Portsmouth as a place to do business, because it was more focused on Portsmouth as a whole. This is more related to our department and what we are doing in this department. So they rated us pretty good. Those that are aware, I guess, of what we're doing here feel like we're either doing an excellent, a good, or a fair job. So these are a few of the recommendations that we put together for the business retention and expansion strategy. And all of this is directly related to the feedback that we received from the survey. So improve communications and outreach. We want to expand on our social media efforts, as well as put out more updates through email, make business visitations. We want to actually market those and make those easier to schedule. working with our partners and also networking with minority organizations to get the information about economic development out to the public. Also increase marketing efforts around individual businesses and groups. We want to make sure that we are highlighting the great businesses that are in Portsmouth. A lot of what outside people see, or even people inside of Portsmouth, a lot of what they see is, you know, if it's related to a business, it's because some crime or something happened outside of their business. But we want to spotlight them for what it is that they do and what it is that they bring to Portsmouth. So that's where Business Spotlight comes in. We also are looking at doing a video series that will highlight more of our businesses in different areas to just improve the city's overall. We want to change the narrative a little bit and just make sure that we're putting out the positive things about businesses here. Increase networking and sponsorship efforts. We plan to partner with local organizations here to make more networking opportunities available for Portsmouth businesses. And we also want to focus any workshops or trainings and events that we have around subject matters that they indicated that they want more information about. So like tax credits, we are hosting a networking event or hosting a training. We want to make sure that we are responding to what they said they want more information about and provide that information to them in those matters. And going forward, we look to do a survey like this periodically, maybe annually, to see how we trend, to see if we are improving in the resources and information that we are providing to the Portsmouth business people. Told you, fun part.
I have a couple of things. One, and I may have missed this. And you said you had 86 responses. How many businesses did you send it out to?
Oh, a lot. I think in our email, on our email list, the one that we had internally, it was probably over 300 businesses. The city sent it out on their email list as well. And the organizations that we partner with sent it out.
The opposite of that, though, is I would like for us to do something with the community survey of exactly what businesses, you know, we always assume they want restaurants, they want this, but when you actually talk to a lot of people, it's a lot of things that we don't consider that they want. And I don't think we really know that. And I would like us to do a community survey of the types of businesses that you would like to see in your city, and even where would you like to see them in the city. So I would hope that would be something we could expand on.
I think that's a good point, Teresa. One of the things that Norfolk does consistently is that whenever they're going to do an initiative, like I saw today, they're talking about doing something in Midtown Norfolk, and they have an opportunity for citizens to come forward and what would you like to see in Midtown? How soon would you like to see it? And they always seek out community input. Now, they use it, I don't know, but they certainly as a city, it's something that they do. And I was thinking, I don't know if we do that on a regular basis.
I've seen it done here in Portsmouth with particular projects. So if it's a project that come up in a city park, for instance.
Yeah.
So they ask for citizen input on particular projects. You just got to be in the loop and look for it because they do it a lot. They do it a lot when they have projects coming up.
Yeah.
I understand what you're asking for, and we do that. In fact, we're in the process of doing that now with respect to the new innovation district, which is being created as we speak, the planning process for that, and that will include a public input forum for community input and feedback for the High Street corridor to determine what community and residents would like to see in that area, what the vision is, so we can craft a strategy. And there may be other opportunities to do that elsewhere throughout the city. So that's something we can certainly look to incorporate into the next survey.
What I took from this presentation is that the majority of the respondents are expecting or projecting growth for their businesses in the upcoming years. And as a business owner, that's what you want to do. You want to project that you're going to do well and you know, hire new employees and expand your business. But there's a disconnect in our marketing towards certain people, and that goes with the workforce development too, and what Ms. Drury said about young Black men not participating in these programs, because I think there's a marketing disconnect. If our advertisement or whoever we're using must not be effective and must not be reaching the people that we're reaching, that we need to reach. And marketing and advertisements talk to specific individuals. So advertisement that appeals to Flora per se might not appeal to Taquan standing on the corner shooting dice to get him to come into a workforce development program. So we got to talk to we got to talk to our audience a little better, I think, in this marketing, because there's a lot of people, there were a lot of, what is that? They don't know what it is. That's our marketing. We need to speak to them and get the message
Yeah,
out a
you're
little better.
exactly right. I have an 18-year-old son who makes fun of me for looking at Facebook, wouldn't dream of it. And yesterday, because I actually do read the Portsmouth newsletter that comes out that talks about Parks and Rec and all that, and I cut out the little ad about it's called like Hawks basketball, and it moves around every month in Portsmouth, and it's from 10 p.m. until 1 a.m. And I'm like, oh my God, here you go, 18 to 27, you can play basketball because that's what you're doing in my backyard. And he was like, wow, this is actually something I will do that you gave me. But I thought the same thing. I thought, you know, these kids aren't looking at that Portsmouth.
Yeah, it's
So how
still,
do we
it's a
get
still,
that
it's a still
information
advertising.
out to them? I mean, I can tell you 18 to 27-year-old young men who play basketball are not reading that.
Right.
But at least, you know, some of the mothers are hopefully giving that out.
We are realizing and discovering, you know, obviously there are many different forms of media now, and every audience has its own preference and who utilizes what. So we are working now to craft our strategy, whether it's business retention or attraction, recruitment, workforce. Each pillar is going to require its own because we're trying to reach different audiences, and that's what we're working to craft now is our plan for how we do that. So some folks may use Facebook, so we're gonna hit that audience, and then you know some others might be on Instagram. Some prefer you know using email. So what we're planning to do is engage with the city's marketing firm, the Davidson agency, to start working with them to do some targeted campaigns and how we reach these audiences. Yeah, it's going to require a little bit of a financial commitment on our part, but I think it's certainly you know worth the investment to make sure we're reaching who we need to reach, our target audience, and we're going to be working to do that.
Can I tell one story, and I'll make it really, really quick. I was flying home last week through Atlanta, and I sat next to this guy, my age, you know, and we started talking. He's with an engineering firm up in DC, and I mean in the heart of DC, and he lives in DC, downtown. Well, he is going to be doing a project. His firm got a project at the Portsmouth Naval Hospital. And so he's going to be coming down here and doing a lot of work. And so I started talking about, you know, restaurants he needed to go to and places and, you know, everything he needs to do. And he said, so you live in Portsmouth? And I said, yes. And, you know, I explained all this. And he's like, wow. He said, because, you know, well, first off, he grew up in Deep Creek. So that should explain part of it. But this is a guy who's very much into DC. I mean, and, you know, some people are afraid of DC, but he's like all in it. But he started telling me that as soon as they found out that they got the project and that they were going to be in Portsmouth, that all these guys in the office were saying, oh my God, Portsmouth, the crime rate, and aren't you afraid going down there and all that? And I, of course, was offended. And I said, really, from DC? These are guys who work and live in DC, and they're talking about Portsmouth. And so, you know, I talked about, you know, some things going on, but what the city's doing, and talked about, you know, that motel and the blight. And so I'm taking him to Still when he comes back into town, change his view, but still, I was just, you know, it comes down also to the individual. I mean, that's part of it with us, but I was just, the whole marketing, when we were talking about that and the branding, I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, these guys who work and live in DC are talking about Portsmouth and the crime rate.
We talked about this, I don't know, last year, about kiosks downtown. What is it like? I mean, just imagine, you get off the ferry and you stop right there. How do you know where a restaurant is? How do you know where a hotel is?
There is a
How do you know where Old Town? It's not active. I mean, every time we say something, we come up with something. So there's this kiosk 5 blocks behind a tree. There's another kiosk. You know, so I'm just saying, interactive kiosk that shows exactly what is available in the city. I mean, that's what we sell ourselves short. I mean, we just have a no-go mentality, you know?
Lynchburg is doing it. I was at a conference speaking last week, and the guy from Lynchburg, which is the cutest town ever, but they have started that. They have the interactive kiosk for their restaurants, and that has become like the hippest little place if you haven't been there.
And let me tell you, I haven't been on the city council. These discussions and these ideas are being tossed around and are being discussed, but it comes right back down again to the money and the funding and what some of this stuff costs. Just like the shot system that the police are looking at, you know, they're getting bids on that now. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that that you can't get out across the city as to what the city is contemplating, what they're looking at, what they're doing. But, you know, so it's not all doom and gloom. It's the same thing. The perception that Portsmouth had goes back many, many years. And let me tell you, the biggest group that perpetuates it is military. You know, I've been up in Ohio and Michigan and places, and you tell them you're from Portsmouth, and you know they're talking about Portsmouth as if they've been here lately. I asked a few of them, when the last time you were in Portsmouth? Oh, I haven't been there since 25, 30 years ago. But they are still have that in their vocabulary, their minds about Portsmouth. You know, from years and years ago.
When I was working in the common attorney's office, they actually used to give briefings to military that came in this area. I was surprised in Portsmouth about don't go here, stay off this street. I mean, they were actually doing that, you know. So I mean, hopefully that's not what's going on there.
Military do that in every city.
I mean, but it was really, but Portsmouth was really deemed a bad thing. But going back to what you all was saying, hopefully this is something that when we talk later about what we want to present to council, you know, these types of things is something we can do. But selling ourselves short, I was in Hampton the other day. And Hampton, I said, oh, we could do this in Portsmouth. Hampton has hired a firm and actually developed a, you know, I used to do walking tours and all that kind of stuff. They're doing a driving tour. And they give you the headphones, all this stuff. And they had people who in the city had, I guess, places of interest that they wanted to talk about, that this is where you are now. And somehow when you get in there, it'll say you're now at the corner of this and this. And if you turn to your left, you'll see this, and you'll turn to your right. And it was even taking them outside of the little downtown. I mean, it was taking them out. And I said, that is the way. We have people come here all the time, and we need to figure out ways. People are not doing tours like they used to, but that is a way to engage visitors that come who have a vehicle.
I'll send an email to Keith Toller with
Yeah,
all our
definitely
ideas.
some opportunities for tourism here.
Yeah, I thought it was the neatest thing, and I asked them, I said, who did this? And the city had hired a firm to actually put it together, and it was really great.
And we struggle with the decisions we make. I mean, at one time we did away with the tourism department altogether.
Yes, I was at the Renaissance when that happened.
And the partnership picked it up, you know. So we're our own worst enemy in a lot of cases because we don't aren't as progressive as we should, and we, you know, you have to say it. I mean, we don't have billion-dollar budgets, you know, like Beach or, you know, close to billion-dollar budgets like Chesapeake. So, but then if we did, you wonder what will we do with it, you know, and that's the scary part when you look at, you know, the way government is now. So,
I think we just want something done, you know, so we can go back through and check it off and say, we did this, because we can talk about it.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when good things are done, they have to be publicized.
Yes.
So, because if you go online, if you just type Portsmouth, it says the first dangerous city in Virginia. So that means we're not doing that well, you know, in sense, everything good. Like, that's why I asked you why you didn't spend the money. Because everything you do, nobody knows. If you saw the survey, 63% of people doesn't even know what public works is.
Right.
You know what I mean? And what's the added value when we do something? You don't duplicate just institution. Like say, what I heard is everything that VEC does, she was doing. So what we're adding, everything we're adding publicized there, and it's good. Or even the way that the crimes are perpetrated. You hear stories, everywhere is happening the same thing. When it comes to Portsmouth, like I'm not saying every life matters, but the way he's perpetrated is like the end of the world happening in Portsmouth.
And it's a percentage, it's numbers, because of our population makes it, us up there.
Yeah, up
Because
there,
of our
like,
small population. And, and I just can't believe that somebody that lives in Washington DC is talking about Portsmouth.
I
mean,
know,
that's
so don't
unreal.
worry, when they come down here for this
'Cause
project, I
it
will
is
change
horrible.
my mind.
it's as soon as you put it in there, it's number one in
Oh,
2021.
believe me, I
Number
was
one.
just like, seriously?
It all gets back to, how we craft and tell the story and changing the narrative. And that's what we're
Okay.
looking to do. So we'll continue just like we did with the workforce development update. We're going to move forward with the survey, and that will be a recurring focus of ours, and we'll keep you abreast of it.
And thank you. Very good presentation.
Our next item is submitted by commissioners.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just had a few questions. Has there been any progress on the real estate broker solicitation?
There has. We have been working to finalize an RFP document. It's my understanding a new procurement officer has been hired by the city and is the one who would be overseeing that. So I would expect by March that will hit the streets. And that would be both for representation for listing property, but also the acquisition of property.
Do you have a projected timeline for bringing that firm on board?
I don't have a definitive timeline, but it would be this spring.
Did any progress on the meeting with the planning director?
I was gonna report on the other two, but not the planning, because that's something that, staff is working on. The planning director, he's asked.
We were waiting on the other meetings to be scheduled, and then that would be a following. So, we can look to do multiple things. That could be something we can incorporate into a regular meeting, or if there's an upcoming retreat, that may be a more appropriate time where we would have time for somebody to make a presentation and have a discussion.
And since you brought that topic up, I'll say what I've been doing. Friday, the plan right now is for the chairs to meet, and I'm housing authority, I'm meeting with them Friday, and we're going to discuss, the needs and whether or not, what that meeting would entail. So, and we've also included, the executive director and our director in that conversation that we'll be having, and we'll get back with you based on, the outcome of that. And I think that's what we're gonna do with the city council also, is to maybe get with the mayor, and maybe one of our liaisons, and talk about, what that meeting would look like, and maybe put together an agenda. And also, with council, it's a whole different ballgame, as you know. So, but yeah, it's still on the table as far as the two groups getting together. And I think you've heard us say before that ordinarily they initiate these meetings, but this council has chose and has really not been interested in any of the major commissions meeting with them one-on-one.
So our liaison is Paul Battle, and who's the other one?
The Barnes, council vice mayor.
Are we allowed to ask for a different one who's more active?
That's something, no, you aren't, but you can't, you can do anything that you think that may work, but that is an issue that, I intend to kind of float
I
myself.
think it's an issue that a lot of the boards are having. They are not just us.
Right, they aren't participating.
And no wonder when they ask for board reports, they never have any on them.
They aren't really participating as liaisons and any of the others. Other than some of the council members that have been up there previously, you know, they are like planning commission and things
Right.
like that. They are attending those meetings, those two liaisons. So we'll see how it goes. Anybody?
Only thing I would like to throw forward is that could we start bringing in speakers to some of our meetings? Like I would love to hear from Bloom, what's driving flex space, what are some of the types of businesses that are using that? And maybe some opportunities for EDA to be supportive. The other thing I had was maybe we could get with someone who could give us some advice on best practices for expanding minority participation, whether it be in the construction industry, etc. So those are two things. I just think it'd be nice for us to hear from speakers.
We can certainly accommodate that. I would just recommend that you forward any ideas or requested topics to the chair, and we can certainly work to coordinate and arrange for a guest speaker to come in on occasion and speak to those topics.
And let me back up too and say, probably the most critical meeting is with the council, because there's nothing coming, you know, from them as far as future plans for anything. You know, it's just business as usual, you know, whatever issues are common, like crime or whatever. And I think we've all agreed that we just can't continue to sit back and, you know, without asking, you know, what are you going to do and how can we participate, or do you want us to participate? Those questions need to be asked. And I think we're going to do that.
Well, don't you think if you ask them if they want us to participate, they're going to say no, so you don't even ask them?
Well, part of this is just the conversation and the dialogue. You got to start someplace.
No, oh, I agree.
So, I mean, you can't go in and tell them what you want to do, because they've already made it clear that they are leaders and they're going to manage some of this economic development. But then it was like nothing after that. So I you know, I don't know. It's this. Wish I had answers, you know. I wish we could answer, you know, like the crime situation, you know. No one's going to fix that, you know, with the way things are, because that's just the nature of the beast, and we just got to work at.
Right, it's like Flora said, it happens everywhere, but the way it's reported enforcement, so we got to get out in front of it and adjust the narrative a little bit, because crime happens everywhere. And I know your point was it was like per capita, which made it more noticeable here, but I don't think it's more per capita. I think it's the way it's reported and the presentation of it.
That's how they rate it, though.
Yeah.
They rate it, the percentages per capita, per the population. There's a percentage of the population. That's how they rate it. That's why we're up at top.
Right.
Just the numbers.
Right.
And the numbers of people that live in Portsmouth. So, because you know that, you know.
But when it's reported on, they don't look at I'm talking about media reporting, news reporting, not statistical reporting where you could look at the per capita, you look at the television, you look at the newspaper, and it doesn't give you that information, it just gives you a blight about Portsmouth being a crime capital, crime city. It doesn't give you all of the metrics and the data that you're looking at.
But they use that. The media uses that in their deliberations and their presentations.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with you on that part of it. But we can go to the next topic.
That's true. They do that.
So every time a shooting happens in Portsmouth, the news reporter goes and looks up the data, the metrics, and find out everything before they report that story.
Those folks that operate the news desk, the folks that that you see on TV, the reporters are out in the field doing things.
Right.
When they get back to the office, everything adds to their presentation, and that's how they operate. I mean, that's
I think it's a
really,
little bit of both, because annual, they do present a report every year about
They
the
get from city
crime
and
and
those
the per capita and all that
Right.
kind
Yeah.
of, kind of tells the ranking of our city.
Yeah, I work
But,
at Channel 10 and
so-
Channel 3, and
But I
did a
do
lot of news
say
reporting and
that
producing.
in the past, I don't know as much now, but certainly in the past, I do think it happens now, that Portsmouth gets a different perception. I mean, they kind of point in on anything that happens here, anything negative. It's crime and other negative things. It's like, it was like almost like you felt like, I mean, does anything happen anywhere and it happened to Rosario but us? But that was the constant feed. And
and you look at just the numbers and that take the populations out.
right,
Newport News is far more
right.
incidents than
Yeah.
than Portsmouth. So,
Because in this report doesn't just go the crowd, it goes every single detail, even
Right.
victim of a simple attack, how to
Right.
represent
Right.
that. That's,
Right.
is if you go, the same day happened, shooting here, and so I was a shooting in Newport News School. The way who perpetrated was here, was like, over there was worse, you know, I'm not saying every single life matters, but the way it's perpetrated is a bit
Yeah.
like,
And it has a lot to do with the demographics. It's always been about the demographics of Portsmouth. I mean, we
and
just
it's
need
not just shootings and
Yeah,
murder,
yeah.
it's
It's
also
everything,
all
yeah.
kinds of crimes
Right.
are in the mix. Yeah, so, okay, thank you. Anybody else have anything else, any members to submit? Okay, so you having a report back, so.
We do have a report back, and it's really an update. I'm pleased to share that the property that the EDA sold at 409 McLean Street, which is the property that is now Woodland Park residential development, has broken ground. They broke ground just a week or so ago. So there's a lot of site clearance and activity happening there. Again, that is just adjacent to the casino site and Tidewater Community College there, in the Newport community. 192 townhomes, if you recall, under development. So lots of dirt moving. Again, the theme here now in Portsmouth is dirt is moving all throughout the city. So more progress happening. 192 new market rate homeownership units will be coming online here this year. So just wanted to provide you with that update. If you're in the area and you happen to see something going on, that's what it is.
And they have a big portion of it already cleared, flat. All of that woods are down and it's flat and already, so a good portion of it. So they're really rolling.
Oh, that was it, Chair.
Okay, yeah. And we've also seen the progress also at the casino and what they're doing there. They're rolling to leaps and bounds. And, you know, the things that they're doing, you can see parts of the elevator shaft coming up in the main building and the frontage there that's going to be on Victory, where they're going to have like an amphitheater and that retention pond that they, you know, made look very beautiful. And that will be decorative, the entrance to it. So things are moving along, you know, very well. And those are the biggies, but, you know, the others across the city are still, people are still moving. Of course, some of the other that we know that we have a part still, of course, still is in the process of approval. You know, like the apartments in Cavalier Manor, which wasn't, we didn't have anything to do with that, but the condos downtown, you know, before you get to Elm, that's still all on the fourth floor, going through the approval process. So,
I have one quick question before we close out. Is there Old Willett Hall, the area, Old Willett Hall area, that property, is that an EDA property, a city property? Who owns that now?
That's city property. It's by the city.
Okay.
yeah, and that's, you know, still up. You know, the biggest obstacle there is going to be that recreation facility back there. You know, that's always a contention. Like when they were building Simonsdale School, Olive Branch, Little League, have to be either relocated or, included in that site. And the same thing will probably happen out here too. So, it can be done. There's enough property out there depending on what somebody wants to do there.
There's a lot more. Old Wilson High School and Willard Hall, all that space together right there.
Right, yeah. And back in the day when I was on council, Boston Coors was looking at acquiring that to do condos and medical buildings, and that fell apart, because of funding and things like that. So there's still maybe some interest out there as time goes. Okay. We all done? You have anything else?
Just to note, your next scheduled meeting, your regular meeting is scheduled for March 15th.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Thanks everybody for coming, and I will adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.